So, this video is for Pastor of Muppets, which is a phenomenal name, and I love the play on words. I think of Metallica every time I hear it. The question was basically, to paraphrase, hey, I'm in a group of guys for SHTF. I'm the only non-military member. Everybody seems more or less squared away, but there's one or two guys that drink too much on occasion and bust a spring. Should I be concerned now and or post SHTF? So, let's talk about that. First of all, having been in the military, and I mean all of this with love, so please everybody, before you get super upset, does not necessarily make you a spaceship door gunner. And not that that's the only... Shut up. Not that that's the only thing that matters post-SHTF, but it's certainly something that most people focus on. And without getting into all the things that the military teaches one, like, teamwork and how to deal with bureaucracy, and more how to deal with bureaucracy. Not all of those things necessarily translate to an SHTF event. And a lot of veterans, it has been my experience, talk a huge game about having been in the military, which is great. I'm not taking that away from anybody. But the fact that they were, an infantryman in 1991, they know some things, but man, they're no longer an infantryman. Let me put it that way. And so the reason I bring this up is because, I have many good friends in the military. One I'll use as an example is an SK in the Navy. In the Navy, you have a rank and a rate, and his job is he's an SK, a storekeep. And I'm like, good for you, man. You're burning my tax dollars by learning how to order eggs and torpedoes. Yay, America. And so he's a phenomenal guy, but if it was time to press triggers, he's not super ultra high speed tactical. That's not his job. And so depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish with your group, having been in the military doesn't necessarily translate to, oh, come here, let me teach you how to operate this weapons platform. Okay, so that's the first thing. And it also doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's ultra squared away. I've met a lot of civilians that were more squared away now than military guys and girls. And I'm not saying this at all to dog on the military. I think you guys, if you're here, you know me well enough to know that I'm a huge supporter of the United States military. I've done a lot of work alongside the United States military and its members, and I'm thankful for it. But it's not the be-all, end-all. So just because these guys in your group are former military does not necessarily mean they're the best candidates to be in your group. And I'm saying that not just for you, Pastor of Muppets, but for everybody within the sound of my voice, because when it's time to start building a crew, a team, a mag, this matters. This is one of the mistakes that I made putting together the North Texas Mutual Assistance Group. I had a lot of military guys, and you know what? The vast majority of them just wanted to play house, man. The only part they were interested in was this part. They did not want to store food. Hell, they didn't even want to train. They just wanted to shoot. Very little interest in learning medical. They taught me that back in the day. Any chance that things have gotten better since they taught you 25 years ago? Probably. And so, again, don't get me wrong. Military is good. Military is good. I'll talk like a like a caveman. But it's not the be all end all. And there's lots, hundreds of different jobs within the United States military. So if your SHTF group is a militia type, you know, Ron, who his job was, he was a truck driver, nothing against truck drivers, is gonna need to get up to speed on how to fire a carbine probably. So all those caveats aside, just because the military doesn't mean they're squared away, okay? Next. Somebody who drinks too much is somebody who drinks too much. I don't want anybody on my team who's chemically dependent, myself included. I mean, I just concluded a 30-day Nazarite vow where I drank nothing, no alcohol for 30 days. The reason I did that was I had a couple of moments in the month preceding that where I was like, you know what would be good right now? Glass of whiskey. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Wow, why am I thinking of whiskey at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Not good. So that happened twice in the space of 1 month. And I was like, you know what? I have enough of a history with substances that I'm just going to shut it down for a month. And so I did. So my question to you for these guys on your team would be, do you think they could shut it down for a month? No drinking whatsoever. If the answer is no, then you're dealing with somebody who's chemically dependent. And that's a problem for 2 reasons. Number one, if they are in an altered state of mind, that means that you cannot depend on them. If they depend on the substance, you cannot depend on them. Number 2, what are they going to do when that substance runs out and there is no more? And now you're dealing with somebody going through withdrawals, potentially on the day that you need them the most. That's a problem. Now, the world is not ideal. I get that. And a lot of people say you got to take what you can get. I like, you got to make things happen, man. Like, you get what you build. We get the question a lot, man, like, how do I get a mag like yours, T? And it's like, put in the work. It's like Shofar Mountain. People are like, man, I want to be at Shofar Mountain. It's like, well, everybody at Shofar Mountain is from somewhere else. Everybody uprooted their lives and moved there and made huge life decisions to be a part of that tribe. It's like, it doesn't just happen. So, you either get what you settle for or you get what you build. And so if you settle for a couple of drunks to put your back up against when the world's ending, so be it. If you build the type of environment that is not conducive to a couple of drunks, your problem will solve itself. So, and this is the second time I'm shooting this video because earlier I was interrupted 3 times by a toddler. So excuse me if I'm kind of dancing all over the subject. Where are you going to get more alcohol? Are you going to dedicate time, energy, resources to perpetuating the creation of alcohol to soothe the needs of your alcoholic dependent or alcohol dependent teammates? That's a poor use of effort. Now, don't get me wrong. I've made plenty of my own White Lightning truck fuel. We have brothers that make mead. It's awesome. My wife makes wine. It's awesome. But I want to do that because it's something we like to do, not because it's something we need to do. And I don't want to have to deal with people who are withdrawing from any substance. I mean, look, sunflower seeds, because I don't want to be dependent upon tobacco when the balloon goes up. I've just proved to myself over 30 days I'm not dependent on alcohol. I don't eat sugar. What else is there? Salt, basically. Salt and black pepper or cracked pepper, David sunflower seeds, and I'll figure out a workaround on that, I start dipping pine needles if I have to, whatever, because I got literal tons of that. So, and somebody commented below your question, easy decision, do you trust them with your life? To which I would say, do you trust them with your life? And if the answer is no or maybe, then it's a no. Right now, could you depend on them to be there if you needed them? And I believe you said already that you've talked it over with them. Well, you need to talk it over with them some more, because a loving brotherly rebuke goes a long way. And maybe you feel like you're not in a position to address this with them. Well, that's fine. That's just your ego talking. Maybe the whole reason you're there in the first place is to address it with them. Maybe it has nothing to do with SHTF. Maybe the way that you serve the kingdom in this regard has nothing to do with the team itself. It has to do with you speaking hard truths to these people on the team and saying, hey man, I want to be here, but I'm not going to be here because I don't trust you to be sober-minded enough to press triggers when the time comes to it, or to whatever. I mean, this is another thing we fail to focus on repeatedly on an SHTF team is, okay, again, getting back to the former military. Good, that's awesome, that's great. But A, not everybody, most people are not combat arms. And B, if your life is constant combat post-event, you're doing it wrong. So it's not just, okay, this guy's was in the Army. We'll just say he was in the Army. Great, cool. Can he plant potatoes? Can he shut his ego down enough to husk corn for the next 2 hours? Can he sterilize ball canning jars? Does he know how to shovel stuff? Right? Has he ever butchered an animal? Can he hunt deer? Can he carry buckets of water? Is he good at yelling at goats? Get out of there! Goats don't care. Can you see? Yeah, I got to clean my barn. It's a disaster. In part because of these guys right here. And in part because we've been on mission for the past month. And this place is falling apart while we've been elsewhere. So there's a lot of things that need to happen other than shouldering a rifle and manning a post. Now, those two things are very important, but they are not the only things. And so what is the function of this group? What role does this group fill? What's the mission statement of the group? And how does your buddy who drinks too much on occasion and busts a spring fulfill that mission statement of the group? If this was a brother on my team, I would pull them aside. And I said, look, man, I love you. You're awesome, and I'm glad you're here. But I got to tell you, I'm concerned that when I need you, you're not going to be dependable because you're more interested in getting your buzz on every day than you are on doing what's right. And it's not right that you're drinking this much. And I'm concerned about whether or not I can trust you. And one of two things is going to happen. They're going to blow up and get pissy with you, which, you know, okay, losing proposition. Or they're going to sit there quietly for a minute and go, you know what? You're right. Thank you. If they say, you know what? You're right. You got something. If they blow up and get pissy with you, shake the dust off your sandals, get up and find another place to hang out, man. So, Pastor and Muppets, I hope that helps. And I'm sorry if this is a little discombobulated. And again, all my servicemen and servicewomen out there, please understand what I'm trying to say here. It's like saying that, okay, well, good, we've got, this guy needs open heart surgery, find me a doctor. And the guy shows up, he's like, I'm just a podiatrist. Okay, there's lots of different doctors. There's lots of, get off of here. Look at this. There's lots of different doctors. There's lots of different military occupational specialties within the military. There's lots of different civilian jobs, you know. It's like saying, I need an IT guy. Well, man, there's IT guys that I don't even know, man. There's so many different types of things that have to do with IT. We're saying I need a mechanic, a boat mechanic, a Peterbilt mechanic, somebody that only works on Cummins motors, or the guy that's finally figured out how to swap plugs on a Ford 5.4 Triton motor, or, you know what I mean? Like, what kind of mechanic? Are you a wind turbine generator mechanic? So, please forgive me the generalities, is what I'm saying, is that I'm not trying to talk bad about anybody. I'm just trying to simply illustrate that there is no box to check. Oh, cool. That guy was military. He's good to go. Talk to any of your friends who were in the military. They'll be the first ones to tell you. A lot of the people who are in the military are not good to go while they're in active service. Like, no way, man, not that guy. So, yeah. I'm also, this just popped in my head, so I'll leave you with this. One of my favorite quotes is, idealism increases with distance from the problem. It's easy to be idealistic about it now because we're not there. The problem is very distant. But what happens when it's not? And so on my end, it's easy for me to sit here and be idealistic and say, you know what, boot this guy. If he's got a drinking problem, boot him. And I'll openly acknowledge that. I think on your end, it's easy to be idealistic and say, you know, it's not that big of a problem until the problem shows up. And it really is that big of a problem. So, all right, y'all, I got stuff to do. I got to unload the whole back of this truck. I'll just show you the back of this truck. I've already unloaded 2 other vehicles that looked like this after our most recent deployment to Muskogee. And there's the back of my truck. Look at this. Look at this. It looks like a Lowe's puked in the bed of my pickup truck. Shalom, y'all.